Imagine there was no such thing as communication. If there was no trust anywhere, what would happen to the world? In Communication for Interpersonal Skills for Nurses, Dr. Shirley Bach says, so that communication between each other could be more easily understood by early Homo sapiens, different modes of communication were developed. Communications and trust are good interpersonal relationships. Many variables are involved in having good communication skills. Your trust is learned in childhood, and sometimes no matter how good your communication skills are, there still may be complications. Good communication skills has many variables. Dr. Bach states in Communication and Interpersonal Skills for Nurses that from very early times when Homo sapiens began to evolve and cohabit in an environment that was hostile and primitive, one of the first skills it was imperative to learn was the communication of ideas. Although many communications and relationships have advanced from their original state today, the need to communicate and have those relationships are still there. Nurses to patients communication is very important. Most nurses rank their communication skills as being high, but patients are less satisfied with their communication skills. Some believe that the way nurses are being taught to communicate and interact is not exactly as they have to in their jobs, but how teachers think they will. Good communication involves many skills: open-ended questions, listening, empathy, and assertiveness. Interpersonal relationships involve many skills too: professionalism, professional ideology, gender, generation, context, cooperation, self-disclosure. Good communication is essential in any circumstance. Trust is also very important, and are both things you learn in childhood. Trust is an important and learned trait. In interpersonal traits during childhood and adolescence, Ken Rottenberg says scholars throughout the world have advanced the principle that society cannot survive unless individuals establish and sustain basic levels of interpersonal trust. He also says there is evidence of interpersonal trust developing through adolescence, being linked to many things later on: physical health, cognitive functioning, social functioning, and developing and maintaining close relationships. When it comes to children, if the people in their social world were seen as deceitful and manipulative, they will feel everyone is like that and will withdraw from social contact. Failure to attain or achieve many things: social skills, social support, peer group relationships, close relationships, academic achievement, and medical treatment for illness. Being too trusting can be a problem for children, as well as not being able to trust at all. Many things contribute to how communication and interaction with others after you've reached adulthood. But there may still be complications. In interpersonal skills, Bob Wright says, do not assume that the client speaks the same language as you. If he does speak a different language, then think carefully about the best way to communicate with them. There is a chance you could have to talk to someone who does not speak English. If you can't speak their language and they can't speak English, you're going to have a hard time communicating with your patients. You can't have family translators because they're not always that reliable, and a lot of them are not recognized by law. Translators are not always an option, and with patients you can't always have translators because you break privacy laws. Your body language is also a part of communication that most people don't think about when they're talking to other people, but it is a way to help or harm the way your message is received. Communication and trust are keys to a successful interpersonal relationship. They're both learned traits, and sometimes good trust and good communication are more difficult to achieve than you think. The next time you're having a conversation with someone, think about all the factors and see how they affect the way people interpret what you say and how you interpret what they've said. You might be surprised about the impact. Communication is an exchange of information between people by means of speaking, writing, or using a common system of signs or behavior. Communication requires many different methods and processes that people receive your information. Trust originates in a relationship between an infant and its close caregiver. Most infants, when you take their caregiver away, they cry until the caregiver returns because of that close trust that they build with them. Trusting someone in a close relationship means that we expect them to act thoughtful and sensitive manner. Communication occurs at work because the client needs something and you are seen to have some kind of expertise. Beliefs and values can influence communication in many ways, especially if they're beliefs that aren't shared, like someone who eats meat and someone who's a vegetarian. Somebody who eats meat might think a vegetarian's weak, and somebody who's a vegetarian might think that the person that eats meat is just totally wrong for killing an animal.